YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back, ranking NFL coaches who are most likely to be fired. We're going to go 1 through 11, 1 being most likely to be fired. I expect them to get fired. 11 being, yeah, I guess it's a shot. They're on the hot seat, but not as likely as the top part of the rankings. So 11 guys on the hot seat we're going to rank today. Excited about this. We have full NFL coverage on the channel, including weekly pick'ems, week 14 picks. You can check that out for this week. Like, subscribe to notifications on while you're at it. We're almost at 100K. Appreciate you guys' support very much. Follow us on Twitter. A lot going on there. Links pinned in the comments for that. And our sponsors, Liquid IV, GLD Shop. Code GOAT for both sites. Giveaway with the GLD Shop. They have nice jewelry that I'm always rocking. Links pinned in the comments for anything you're looking for. We're going to start at 1. We're going to work our way to 11. The Flames in the bottom left, that's kind of like an indicator on how hot their seed is, and 3 is the maximum. So there's kind of a 1A, 1B situation here. Tough decision for me to who am I going to rank at number 1. I'm going to go with Brandon Staley. I think not just myself. I think everyone expects him to be fired. Just not exceeding expectations or meeting expectations. The Chargers being very underwhelming, and a lot of us expected him to get fired last year. Just, again, having Justin Herbert, having talent, which I do think the front office done a poor job as well with contracts, decisions, maybe not getting enough talent around a great quarterback in Justin Herbert, but there's still some talent there, and Staley just not getting the job done and choking games and not being able to close out games. A lot of situational stuff. I don't need to explain this stuff. Everyone knows it, and it's been time for him to go. It's extremely underwhelming. So, and him being a defensive guy in the defense, but I guess recent games they've been okay. They played the Patriots last, but yeah, the defense being a struggle and the team being out of sync, like you can't. They struggle to have the offense, defense on the same page, same time. For all those reasons, Brandon Staley, we expect to be fired. We can almost guarantee it. We should be able to guarantee it, but you never know with some of these teams. But so I'm going to put him at the top. Again, it's like a 1A, 1B situation. We're going to go Ron Rivera, also 3 Flames. We expect these top 2 guys. Do we want to call them top 2? Top 2 in this, where you don't want to be in this ranking system. We expect them to be fired. We can pretty much guarantee it. I think the slight difference on why I rank Staley 1 and Rivera 2, which you don't want to be 1, obviously you don't want to be 2 either. But the Commanders, there wasn't really a whole lot of expectations on them, especially not just this year, last couple years. Chargers, there's expectations about them being like a legit playoff team, maybe more, and they just have not been that. Right now, they're on the outside looking in, like probably not getting into playoffs. So that'd be the difference. But yeah, Rivera, a respectable guy, once was a great coach, just old school type coach. I don't know if it really works anymore. Another team that's just really out of sync. You don't know what Commanders are going to show up. Most of the time not the good Commanders, which is bad, but they're randomly, like, part of their team is randomly good, but the rest of the team lets them down. Just so out of sync, so inconsistent, unprepared. It's just, and he's a defensive guy, and the defense has been a struggle. They put the blame on Del Rio, I guess, which both could be to blame, and the front office as well. But Rivera's been there to kind of build the roster. Just hasn't gone well, and even some guys they've chosen up for defense, they haven't been the right choices. So we expect these top 2 guys to get fired, or bottom 2, however you want to say it. This is where it kind of gets a little interesting. Some other guys that probably should and maybe will be fired, but I'm going to go Dennis Allen at 3, and you see the Flames, we cut the half off the last one, so 2.5 for Dennis Allen. It's a little tricky because he's been part of the Saints for a while, and their defense has been balling under Dennis Allen for several years. That's the tricky part. But even that, it's like, I think time's got to be changing. They run more, as much man coverage, specifically 2-man under than anyone. It's starting to get a little predictable, even though they still play pretty well. They got some talented guys there. I just think it's maybe time to switch it up, time to get with the times, the era. And it's just, look at the NFC South, like, weakest division in football. Expectations are the Saints, looking at rosters, looking at it on paper, should take care of business in that division. And they're not. And they're putting together losing streaks, and they're inconsistent. And for all those reasons, I think it's time for change. And the defense might take a hit right away. They're going to have to build. They're going to have to find guys to run that. But at the same time, if you want to keep running 2-man under, it's not that difficult to coach. But where you do got to give Dennis Allen credit is they're pretty predictable, and they've been predictable because you know what they're going to be in. Well, that's where you can't give them credit for years, but they're still playing at a high level, so he must be doing something right there. But that's the tricky part. I think times are changing. They put a lot of money, spent a lot and worked a lot to make this roster the best in the NFC South, and it's not there. They put a lot of stock into getting Derek Carr, and a lot of blame is on him because he's not playing where he should be playing, but find someone that's going to make that work or make this offense work that can turn it around. So I would expect him to be fired, but not on the same level as the top two, where I think those guys will be at. And guys, that's kind of a 3A, 3B situation with Matt Eberflus of the Bears, which is a little bit maybe trickier than you think. I think people are almost like guarantee he gets fired, and he definitely could be. Give him 2.5 flames here. The seat is pretty hot. The Bears have been pretty underwhelming. He's got a big-time losing record. The argument against maybe, not for sure him staying, but maybe him staying is that this defense is starting to play pretty well. It's starting to look like an Eberflus defense that we saw in Indianapolis that we've been waiting for. And he really hasn't been calling the defense for a long time for the Bears, which I question that decision to not in the first place. But they, and think about the front office. They, and it took some time to get talent, but they got the pieces. They got the talent to fit specifically Matt Eberflus's defense, and now they got more and more talent. They're developing these young guys. You give credit to Eberflus for that, and they're starting to play like a Matt Eberflus defense. So if you take away Eberflus, which I'm not against, by the way, I mean, it sound like it, because I do think you can find a better leader. That's kind of the question with him. Does he have the full team? Does he have the locker room? Can he win games? Can he close out games? Can he make the right decisions? Those are the big things on why he's ranked 4th, and maybe he probably gets fired. But you take away Eberflus from that defense that you built to specifically fit Eberflus' defense, it's going to take a hit. I would imagine they instead of continue to do this, I think it kind of goes back before it does that. So that is kind of the issue there. So I actually wouldn't be, I think Bears fans would be shocked if he wasn't fired. I think they're expecting him to be fired. They want him to be fired. I think most likely he should be and probably will be. There's already talk about them looking at Harbaugh, who sounds like he'll go back to Michigan, or Bieniemy. But there actually is more of a shot than people talk about just because how he has that defense playing. So I think, again, 3A, 3B situation with Dennis Allen versus Eberflus. That was the difference of splitting them up. Again, maybe that front office is like, hey, the guys we got him it's starting to come along. It's starting to mesh together. It's starting to work. Do we want to stunt that, that growth? So that I guess it's maybe a little bit more of a difficult decision than you would think there. But I will rank Eberflus 4th on the hot seat rankings. There is some talk about them already looking. How true is that? We'll see, I guess. 5, I'm going to go with Todd Bowles of the Bucs, which his stint with the Jets didn't work out too well. Now with the Bucs, it's, I guess, a little questionable. I put 2 flames there. Thought about 2.5, put 2, but it's still up in the air on who will win that NFC South. If he goes and wins the NFC South, a big game against the Falcons this week, then it's going to be pretty difficult to fire him. And then you do think, they just had Tom Brady last year. You take him away, how many coaches are going to do good in that situation? So maybe you give him a pass for that as well. They weren't that good last year with him either, with Tom Brady either. But a big thing here, he's a defensive guy. He's always been known as a good defensive mind, but this defense is actually what's letting him down quite a bit. The pass defense isn't there. They're getting pretty predictable. They're getting beat up. But specifically, guys, blown coverages, guys missing assignments, guys not knowing what they're supposed to be doing. Like, I look at the Colts game specifically, there's more than just that, but the Colts game, those 4th down plays, that's what I'm talking about. Like, that should not be happening in week whatever it was at that point, just a couple weeks ago, 12 or so. That should not be happening. I put that on and the players, that's kind of stupid on the players, but I put that on the coaching staff mainly. So just not where the team needs to be, and they have more strengths to where they're not living up to, like especially on defense on that side of the ball. So that's the tough part. If they don't make the playoffs, it's really going to depend if they make the playoffs or not. So that's where I'm at with Todd Bowles. And it's pretty much a very similar situation with Arthur Smith, which I actually took a little bit off that second flame for him because the Falcons are in control of that division. Bucs-Falcons could be huge this week. I think it's more important for the Bucs to win than the Falcons to win. I think if the Bucs win that game, I think the Falcons are still pretty much in the driver's seat, control their own destiny for the most part. But if the Falcons win that game, they're probably going to win that division, it feels like. And the Saints do have a shot still as well. And that would, if they make the playoffs, I think Arthur Smith keeps his job. Because he actually has the team, think about it, the team playing pretty well, if you really think about it. And he's helped build a pretty good team. They really turned it around this year. The defense is a lot better. I know he's an offensive guy, but they made right choices in hiring and who to hire and who to bring in. It's just quarterback play, and I guess he had decisions on. He was part of the decisions on who to go with at quarterback, who to pick, who to play. But the team is playing pretty good, so they're just kind of a quarterback away. So, are you gonna throw anything off, getting rid of Arthur Smith? I think if it's pretty much it. I think if he misses the playoffs, he's out. I think if he makes the playoffs, he's in. He's keeping his job. I think it's pretty straightforward. If he wins that division, he's going to keep his job. If he doesn't, probably out. But does he get a pass because the quarterback play is holding everything back? So earlier in the year, he probably would have ranked Arthur Smith closer to 1, not 1, but closer to 1. But now he finds himself at 6 as the Falcons are kind of regaining, not too much control. But it could change just like that. So we'll see. Again, him and Bowles, we can flip those guys at any given time. Next, Robert Saleh. We took a little bit more off that second flame, if you notice, from Arthur Smith to Robert Saleh. A little bit more. So this is actually dead even at 1.5. But yeah, I guess a tricky one because the Jets look like maybe the worst team in football right now. One of the worst teams in football. They're on a losing streak. They just can't find ways. And I know they have a quarterback situation, but the team doesn't look good. I know the defense looks pretty good. But do they look like the Falcons? I think the team everything looks pretty good besides Ritter and maybe where the hell's Pitts. That's about it. For the Jets, the pass defense looks pretty damn good. Everything else is down. The quarterback play's not there, and the running back plays underwhelming. The receiver plays underwhelming. The offensive line plays not there. I think sometimes the defense is good, but I think a lot of times teams are just pressing the brakes. Let's run the clock. I think if they're needed to score more points, they would. Not a ton because it's a good defense, but I think you get my point. So you could just say the team just went south. They look good at one point, and the front office could say they look good at one point because of the talent we built. And then all of a sudden they went south. They can't win games. The whole team, pretty much the whole team doesn't look good besides, the pass defense, some of the pass rush. So maybe it's time to move on. But I think most likely he's going to get a pass because Aaron Rodgers out in the disaster at quarterback. And the front office maybe kind of slaps themselves a little bit like, hey, we didn't really plan for Rodgers to get hurt. We thought Wilson would be better because Wilson was our guy. The front office could be saying we thought he'd be better in this. We were a little hesitant to go get someone else, so maybe they can put some on themselves, and then they'll also kind of use the excuse well Rodgers got hurt, but then kind of give Saleh a pass. Who again could be a good coach, good motivator, good defense, but I think people are pretty mixed on this one. I see people when we talk about this on Twitter, it's either a firm yes, he needs to be fired, or definitely not. I don't really see anybody in the in-between. I'm kind of in the in-between. So that's where I have the Jets head coach. And then number 8, Sean McDermott. And with the recent weird stuff coming up from in the past with McDermott, I'm not going to get too into that, but attempting to motivate, if you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Sean McDermott on Google. It's probably going to come up, or on Twitter. But maybe that makes him more in the discussion. The Bills being underwhelming. They've been underwhelming. They've been a really good team. You have one of the better players in football, Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. I mean, you got Von Miller. You got really good players everywhere. It doesn't stop there. And they get to the playoffs, and they're like, okay, this doesn't really feel like the same. It feels like they're getting out-coached. It feels like the teams have a game plan for them. And they're just kind of continuing to go out and do what they did in the regular season. So that's kind of the knock at that point. And then this year, they're not able to close out games. They're choking games, and they're outside looking in when it comes to playoffs, and that just can't be because you cannot sit here and tell me they're not one of the top 7 teams in the AFC, on paper at least. They absolutely have to be, and they're not. So, and just not closing out games, situational stuff, just not winning when you should and need to win. He could definitely turn this around at the end of the year. I mean, they play the Chiefs this week. They play the Cowboys next. They'll have the Dolphins coming up, a couple other teams too. But if they win these big games, then of course he's going to keep his job. But he's ranked 8, one flame for a reason. But it's just, I guess it depends on how the season goes. And if it goes very, very poorly, he still could keep his job. But if they somehow sneak into playoffs, he's definitely not losing his job. Again, he may not lose his job if it goes horrendous the rest of the year, but there's definitely a possibility it should be talked about a bit more. I'm going to rank Bill Belichick at 9, and he's being talked about a ton like this is it. There's been legit reports that this could be it, and I'm going to get technical on this one. This is a hot seat, in terms of, being fired. Who's getting shit canned? That's what this video is about. I don't think we're on Black Monday or whatever day it is, we're going to wake up or we're going to be sitting there and it's going to be like the Patriots have fired Bill Belichick. I could be wrong. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I just do not see that. I can see a scenario where they agree to part ways. Now, sometimes that is said when really the guy was fired. I would actually believe in this scenario that they parted ways. They agreed that maybe it's not working out. Or I can see Bill Belichick saying, I'd rather go coach elsewhere. I'd rather go coach another, so he leaves. So we're getting kind of technical. I just don't see, in terms of how hot is his seat? What are the chances he's going to get shit canned? Like he's going to get fired, thrown away, thrown in the trash. I don't think so. I don't think so. So that's why he's ranked a bit lower. If this was a ranking of who's most likely to not be the coach of this team next year, maybe he's a little higher. He did sign a new deal. It sounded like in the offseason they kind of got kept quiet. I just don't think the Patriots team is there right now. Which maybe he probably should get some blame for that because he's basically the GM. He's making these picks I'm gonna bring up the whole debate. It's been talked about a lot too. It's like people were ripping and they just won. That was last night. They just won, so maybe people are gonna slow down on it a little bit, but. A lot lately, people have been saying like, "Oh, Bill Belichick is nothing without Tom Brady. It was all Tom Brady." I hate that talk so much, and I think it's just stupid because you take away. Okay, if you take away a pretty good quarterback that was your starter for a long time from any coach, they're gonna take a step down, especially right away when you need time to adjust. Any coach ever would take a step down. Now factor in who that quarterback was. Tom Brady, which Belichick helped grow. He worked with, you take away the GOAT. Anybody, I'm going to find the coach that's not going to take a step down, especially for, right away for a little bit. It's just common sense. So people are shitting on Belichick for that. It's pretty ridiculous. And obviously quarterback is the most important thing in football. So, I mean, I don't think Belichick is nothing without Tom Brady. I think it makes sense that they took a step down without the greatest quarterback of all time. So I think that's nonsense. I don't think there is a coach that's going to be the same without Tom Brady pretty much. Or I guess it's not immediately after. It's still pretty close. So I don't think he's fired. I can't guarantee that, but there could be a scenario where he's coaching elsewhere. So that's where I'm at with Bill Belichick. Kevin Stefanski's an interesting one. I got half a flame up there. Now, the bottom line is the Browns are kind of control their own destiny to make the playoffs right now. They won enough games early on. It's a pretty good, well-built roster, but they are really beat up. Schedule somewhat favorable the rest of the way. They are in position to make the playoffs. Now, with how depleted this roster is, and if Stefanski makes the playoffs, he's got to be keeping his job. To me, that's going to make him look better than he is. I'm not saying he's a bad coach, but I think they can get more out of somebody else. Maybe they realize that. I do question them. Lately they should be running the football a lot, but they're passing like they're a high-powered pass attack, which is weird from Stefanski. I don't know, but I think he gets a pass even if they miss the playoffs for having the injuries. I still question Stefanski. I think his system is built where like he's the guy. Like it has to run through his system first. It's not like the quarterback's the guy, but it's been hard to tell because they've been really beat up. But I do think there's someone else better for the Browns out there. Maybe the Browns think about that, but I do think it's unlikely, but it could be brought up. And then one more that he's been brought up quite a bit, even a little bit by his own fan base. That's Mike Vrabel. I got no flames on Mike Vrabel. I'd be shocked. I would be shocked if he was fired. But people are talking about it, so I thought I would throw him on this video, ranking him last, though. I think he's a good coach. There's been maybe some slip-ups this year, but the roster definitely isn't there either. They had to switch at quarterback halfway through to a raw quarterback prospect. That looked okay with a really bad offensive line in front of them and, one receiver basically, and it's a predictable offense. Vrabel doesn't call the plays, though. I think that they need to do a better job with decision making in the offseason, specifically in the staff, and understanding the era, understanding it's not, you can't run that old school Titan stuff anymore, like that smash mouth football. It's really not working anymore. So getting out of your comfort zone, being able to adjust, getting the right staff in there, and getting players that fit, getting more, I guess, play style versatile, if that makes sense. You don't really need versatile players in the sense of like this guy can play this position, that position. No, you need like players that can fit a variety of plays on both sides of the ball, really. So they're kind of stuck in. That's where I'll knock Vrabel, which it's not 100% Vrabel. It's a piece of Vrabel, piece of the front office, and his new front office. So maybe they'll turn it around. But really everywhere throughout the roster, kind of stuck in their own ways. A little stubborn with getting outside their comfort zone. So that's where I'll knock them. That's not fire-worthy. I don't like that this team is very different home and away this year. I don't know what it is. The schedule was a little odd. They went a long time without playing a home game because that London game was technically a home game. So I guess we'll put it on that. But the team looks totally different. The lack of, unprepared when they're playing away. So I don't love that. We can put that on Vrabel. But I don't think there's anything there that says yes, needs to be fired or needs to be consideration. If this stuff continues to happen, I would almost give him another year. Like if it happened next year, I guess you that's where you start to strongly consider like, all right, okay, one more year, and then if it happens, maybe that's too long for people. But I think you got a good coach here. I really do. Good motivator, good leader. I think the problem is they're kind of a little stuck in their ways a little bit. And I think there'll be a true test this offseason. Could take 2 off seasons to get in their own flavor, but of today's era. I think that's what we're looking for the Titans, if that makes sense. So those are my rankings. Let me know how. It's only 11. You rank them in the comments. If you want to talk to us on Twitter about it, I'm always talking with you guys on Twitter. Rank them from 1 through 11. Add the flames to make it a little more interesting, too, because some guys were pretty much a tie. So let me know your guys' thoughts. Things could definitely change the rest of the way. I think the NFC South, the battle for the NFC South to keep your job, I think that's a big thing for these coaches. So, we'll see. Can't wait for like the coaching carousel, the coaching action in the offseason. We'll have you covered for that. Everything NFL here at the Goat House, whether it's here or on Twitter. It's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.